viewers, welcome back to yet another show on the Nollywood Insiders. Today we are reviewing a wonderful movie. In fact, this movie is dear to my heart because it is, to me, it is amazing. My name is Miss Heaven Abraham. I am your host for today. Thank you to Camera Join for making this video possible. And let's go straight into what we have for today. The movie we have is streaming live on Amazon Prime. And guess what the movie is? The Father's Love. The Father's Love is a beautiful storyline. The plot is basically the rural area of Lagos, and it talks about a father. Of course, from the name of the movie, you would know that it is father and children, because of course the father's love is basically to the children and, you know, family setting. So the scene opens to David Jones, who is the protagonist of the movie. He is a father to 3 children. The movie generally comes in 3 phases. The storyline changes in 3 places. First, it talks about his only son, who is a sickle cell anemia patient, who, you know, being that he struggles, he's a taxi driver, and being that he's in the rural setting of Lagos, you know that it's a family where you're struggling, you're trying to put food on the table, trying to pay the rent, you work so hard. He is a very hard-working father. And then he has a son who has sickle cell. And you know, that means for maybe in a month, you have to go to the hospital for a blood transfusion, sometimes twice in a month, sometimes 4 times or 3 times in 2 months. So that was a big struggle for the family. This is the first phase of the storyline. The second phase now talks about him as this was a very funny aspect of the movie. So he drove to his friend's place, his friend who is Funny Bone in the movie. So he went to his friend's place that evening, usually to drink, to gist, to talk with his friend, you know, before heading home. And afterwards, he gets to his car and he hears the cry of a baby. So there's a scene where he was telling his friend, open the car door. Friend said, is it not your car? Open the car door. So they were both struggling on who to open the door first. And when they finally did, they just looked at the baby and said, in unison. That scene was very, very funny. Apparently, a person intentionally abandoned a child in his car. The storyline didn't really give us a backstory. Even till the end of the movie, we didn't even get to know whose child it is. We just know that a child was abandoned in his car. And that night, he had to go back to the bus stop to ask people if anybody came around looking for their child. He spent almost the entire night there and nobody showed up. So he got back to his friend's place and the friend said, what are you going to do? You have to take the child to a church and dump the child there. Of course, a church will not throw away a child. Only for them to get there, he was just so compassionate for that baby that he just didn't find himself in that place of dumping the child. He had to take it home. And guess what? His wife is the amazing Yvonne Jegede. Yvonne Jegede is such, oh my God, I really can't find a word to describe her acting prowess. She was so amazing in this movie. I feel like she needs a big break, like a blockbuster movie that would have her as the protagonist and, you know, this big break in Nollywood. She deserves it. She earns it. She has the capacity. She knows, you know, her onions when it comes to acting. You know, the wife, usually you would expect that she would, you know, be so angry, take this baby out of this house, you know, and stuff. Initially, it was that way, but she felt, okay, if God decided to make this happen, let's take care of the child. And remember that they are a struggling family, like they have yet to feed, to pay rent, to fix things, and then an extra mouse. The scene where she said she was going to use the clothes of her previous children for the child, I was like, oh, such a beautiful heart you've got. So she embodied the role as, you know, a poor man's wife, and she did it so perfectly. In fact, my most favorite scene of hers in the movie was the scene where the husband came and was like, these children, the doctor says I'm not their father. And she just broke down. She was trying to explain the things that happened to the husband. And she was in that, like, she was in the role. Nothing you want tell me. She just embodied it. Like, you would know that, this one is real. It's really happened. You actually think that in real life, that's her state. Like, that's her life, because she really embodied it. So the first stage was about his child who has sickle cell anemia. The second stage was about the child who was abandoned in the husband's cab. And then the third and final stage was where the husband found out that he was not the father to his 3 children. I told you earlier that the child has sickle cell and anemia, and because the man didn't really have money to always pay for blood transfusion every time, most times he would donate his blood to the hospital because the hospital was always in need, is always in need of blood. So he would donate his blood to the hospital, and in that way it would serve as a form of payment for the child's treatment and the blood transfusion and stuff. So the doctor called him one day and said, the blood you gave us, the genotype is AA and your wife is AS, but then that means you don't have the capacity to have a sickle cell anemia child. In essence, that boy cannot be your child. And that broke him. In fact, do you know what happened? The doctor was still talking. He just stood up. In fact, he drove his cab to the hospital. So he stood up, walked past his cab, kept walking. He just kept walking. He didn't stop. He didn't look. Thank God that car did not even jam him more because he lost it completely. I feel his pain because if you get to find out that the children you've been taking care of over the years, none of them are his, it's crazy. Basically, I would say that the movie is a must watch. It's an amazing movie. But then I would also want to point out that the movie was trying to give us the vibe that he was a good father. And I feel like they made it look like for you to be a good father, a loving father to your children, you have to always appear weak. Because in the movie, he was, always weak. He wasn't really masculine. He was always very sober, very emotional. You can actually be a good father and not appear weak. You can be a man and still love your family and be a good father. You don't necessarily need to look like you love your family because that is just who you are. So you can also be a good man, a masculine man who knows his stance and also love your family. And then get a friend like Funny Bone. Get a friend like Funny Bone because Funny Bone nailed his role. He was actually a mechanic who would always help this man whenever his cab spoils because he can't afford to, repair his cab when it breaks down. Generally, I would want to say that the movie tells a good story. It was a wonderful storyline. The movie is actually a 2-hour, 30 minutes movie. And I feel like it is a lot of time, especially for someone to sit down for 2 hours and 30 minutes to consume a movie. On the brighter side, it made it in such a way that the stories were told adequately. They were able to explain and put things together properly because I feel like the time was there. A lot of movies tells you a standard story initially, but towards the end, everything is just rushed. Everything, they just shall be putting the thing together so that, I don't know if they're rushing about the time, but in this movie, they took their time to explain every single detail, especially the detail where they had to, being that Yvonne in the movie was betrothed to someone else, and when she met her husband, she had to leave him and move to Lagos, and at the time, she was already pregnant for the person she was betrothed to. So that was why she gave birth and they thought it was the man's. So being that the wife was pregnant for the guy she was initially betrothed to, she gave birth to 2 girls. I'm not going to give you the exact story of everything that happened, but A Father's Love is a movie to see. The cinematography, the makeup, the costume, like the set location, the set design, it was just amazing. And then, the scenes at night, the light placement was wonderful. Like, you would actually think is a natural light placement for the night. But for people like us who have known how movies are done at night, you would know that lights in the night scenes are not usually the natural light. But then there was, in the video editing, there was scenes where in the afternoon, they would use a yellowish color grading for the afternoon scenes, like the daytime scenes. And I feel like it didn't really sit well with me. Give us the normal afternoon vibe. The yellowish vibe wasn't really necessary for the day scene, but the night scene was amazing. And the graphics design of the movie was wonderful. It was awesome. I must applaud Sebastian. He's actually the director of the movie, and he did such a great job telling us such a wonderful story. Lastly, I want to talk about Uche Jombo. She played Big Sis in the movie, and she was a radio OAP, a very popular one at that. Her costume was on point. Though she appeared just 3 times in the entire movie, I feel like she didn't really give us the role of an OAP, because an OAP has this fluency of speech, has this vibe, has, you know, this aura that you have, especially when you're on air. There was a scene where someone called on air and the person said, "What's up?" And she said, "What's up?" So the scene was not really giving an OAP vibe. For me, I feel like she should have embodied it the more. But aside from that, she did a great job, and she was a good, you know, good woman vibes. And I feel like that role also represents who she is in real life, because being that I follow her a lot and I've seen most of her works, you know that she has a very kind heart, has a good heart, and that was the vibe she was giving us in the movie. So she was able to nail that aspect of her role. But the OAP, I didn't really feel the vibe, but it's all good. It's all good. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching. This is yet another wonderful episode, and I believe that you had such a great time. I would implore you to like, share, to subscribe to our YouTube channel for subsequent videos on movie reviews. If you have any movie that you'd want us to review, just type it down in the comment section. And if you have seen the movie A Father's Love, just type your opinions down in the comment section. Thank you for being here. I'll see you in the next video.